Hey guys, welcome back to Sword of Convallaria. In today's video, we're going to be doing our beginner's guide for the game, going through everything in the game to get you pointed in the right direction. The one thing we aren't going to cover in depth in this guide is going to be combat, because that is a whole nother video in itself, which I will have up in the next day or so. And once I do actually have that up, I will leave it in the pinned comment and the description of this one. So if you want an in-depth combat guide, that will be there as well. So the things we're mainly going to look at in this one are going to be characters and character progression, the gotcha system and how it works, account progression and, progressing your account. No shit. Game modes and events and stuff like that. So I will be bouncing between the Taiwanese version and also the demo version of the game, because some of the stuff, if you can see it in English, it's going to be more beneficial. But that pretty much covers what we are going through. I will have timestamps if you want to bounce around, so let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to go through is character progression. Your character's level is going to be determined by your account max level. I will talk about account progression in a little bit, and you're just going to use a standard currency to common XP to go ahead and level it up. Early on, you shouldn't have to farm for this. You should get plenty of it through events and stuff like that. Now, each character also has a core trait or passive, which is kind of going to determine how they play along with the skills they unlock. So as you can see for Mytha here, she has extra damage reduction when she has block, and then she also has a heal at the end of the turn for an ally, and that is the core passive, which is a big part of the identity of every character that you will have. We do have 5 different classes of characters. You can see here we've got defenders, which are represented as green. We've got seekers, which are represented as blue, and breakers, which are represented as red. They basically, their roles are defined. Your defenders are pretty normally tanky characters. They can sometimes be more bruiser type characters. Then we do have the seekers, which are the blue ones, which are normally like your assassins and your rangers and stuff like that. And then breakers are more your warrior type characters, but you do get some characters that feel like they don't fit into that role, even though they are, but that is just the basic summary of them. And they have your standard, interactions of green beats blue beats red beats green. Pretty standard stuff. You have your advantages over them. Now, the next ones that we do have is going to be the Watcher and the Destroyer. Now, Watcher is typically going to be, it's the yellow one. It's typically going to be your supportive type characters, buffers, healers, and stuff like that. Then your Destroyers are normally going to be DPS. You can get different types. Sometimes they're mages, sometimes they're rangers. There's a different roster of destroyers that you can get, but destroyers just have like a higher base stat because they don't have an advantage over anyone, and they're just general DPS type characters in general. That covers the different classes that we have in the game. So often when you're in combat, you will be wanting to attack, your defenders with your breakers, because you do have that advantage. It is going to be beneficial to you. Now, as we move on from that, we have our characters' stats. Now, you can see all your characters' different stats, which are pretty self-explanatory. You got physical attack, physical defense, magic attack, magic defense, HP, and then speed. Speed is what's going to determine the turn order, and when we go into the combat guide, I'll show you how you can see who's coming next and stuff like that in combat. But those are your general basic stats that you go through. Now, moving on from that, we do have our ranking up and our character skills that we can unlock. So if I bounce over here and go into my Taiwanese version, we can get a better look at this. Now, this one, as I put in my top 5 tips video, these are permanent decisions. You can get currencies to go ahead and unlock more of these skills, but your decision is permanent. So make sure you read the characters well and look up some guides. I'll be doing my best to get as many guides out for individual characters and build recommendations as I can. Ignore this build. This was what I did as soon as I started the game, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. So ignore this. But yes, this is your skill tree, and this is where you're going to get extra skills to place. Now, what are you doing with these skills? So when we look at each character down here, you can see you've got your loadout abilities that you can take into combat. Now, every character has a basic attack that they can slot in here. Through your talent tree, you can get a modified basic attack, and that's where that one goes. In here, I can't remember what they call these ones, but the actual terminology, but these are your more defensive type skills that they are going to have. I believe they call them reaction skills is the proper translation. And you're going to be able to get one of those. So you can pick up multiple reaction skills through your talent tree, but you can only deploy one of them in combat. And the next one are going to be your remaining active skills and passives. Now, as you can see on this character, I only have the 3, but as I go up through my tree, I haven't decided which one I want to use, but you know, this is just my Taiwanese account, so we're just going to go ahead and pick up this for shits and gigs. It takes too long for me to translate these things to make my decisions, but there we go. We just picked up that one, and that's going to allow us to show you that, as you can see, I can only take 3 of these into combat. Dude, my head's covering the way, but as you can see, we've got the extra one down the bottom there. So you can only take 3 of these ones into combat, so you got to choose what abilities. Now, you can swap for different situations and use different loadouts, but just know those are going to be your main skill sets that you bring in, and as you unlock these talents, you don't just default to get them all. So unlocking them all doesn't just give them to you all in combat. You've got to select which ones you then want to use in your preset loadouts for the actual combat. Moving on from that, we have our duplicate system over here. I'm going to quickly switch over to this screen because it's in English so we can take a look. So as you can see, we get shards of our characters, which you can farm, which I'll go through in a bit. Roughly, the rough estimate when you get to endgame is about 3 months to get a character to max dupe through the farming system, which I think is fantastic. So for free to play, there is really no need to go ahead and summon for duplicates of characters, but you do get some decent effects. Often, some characters might get like a nice increase at like around 3-star, and then 5-star is your big one, where you do unlock a skin and stuff like that. But just know these are some extra benefits that you get through duping up. But once again, these are farmable, free to play. Don't go burning all your resources summoning dupes, because you can just build towards a character that you really like over time. So that is going to be another place we're going to gain some power. Now, the remaining slot we have is going to be our gear slots over here. Now, your gear is one of those things, obviously, like in any game, it's going to have some variants. I'm going to bounce over here to the Taiwanese version because I can show you guys some more gear. So as you can see, you're going to have your different rarities of gear, and your gear's max level for your first 2 pieces, being your weapon and your equipment, is going to be determined by your account level. So my account level is currently level 37, which means I need to get to level 40 before I can limit break this piece of equipment and take it up to level 50. Now, all of your equipment will have different passives and stuff like that. I'm going to bounce quickly back over to the demo to show you guys. You can see this one increase physical attack by 2%. You see these increase your magic defense by 4%, but we do have much more complex abilities on the higher end gear. Some of them even have additional skills that you can bring into combat. They will have a limited amount of usages or a cooldown or something like that, but just know weapons and stuff will have additional abilities inside them. So keep that in mind. And these are just pretty standard upgrading. If you want to enhance them, you're going to go enhance, you're going to level it up, you're going to burn some of the dust to go ahead and enhance them, and then you're going to have limit break materials to get them through limit breaks. In general, I try and avoid upgrading any lower tier gear besides the max tier, but that has been on the Taiwanese version over here. If I bounce back over to it, you can see these rainbow ones are the highest tier. Now, I did get a lot of pieces of these gear just through playing the game, even in the early game. I don't know if that'll be the case for global. So for global, we might have to go ahead and upgrade some gold pieces of gear just to get our progression. It's just going to be a play it and see. I will do more progression guides on global to see how the state of the game is in global when we get there. Now, there is one last gear slot that we have over here. These I like to think of as like an artifact. I forget what the translated name is. Apologies for not knowing all the nuanced names. Once you guys have got the global version, you'll be like, you idiot, it's this. I know, but I struggle translating. It's a thing. But these ones, these do have different substats, as you can see down here. As you upgrade them to certain levels, I think it's like 20, 30, 35, 50, something like that, you will unlock stats for them. And I can show you that basically on this one. So you can see this, we've got 2 different stats here on the first level 15 one, on these ones, which are also different to this one here. So these are where you're going to get some of your randomized stats. These are not completely governed. At base, you'll be able to crank these things straight up to level 40 if you have the resources, so you can upgrade them, unlock the stats, and see how they go. Once again, these will also have different effects on them depending on the situation. So you will have different ones that are it's pretty obvious when you look at these which ones are going to be effective on which characters, but just know that this is your final piece of gear, and this is the one that has your randomized stat influence tied into it. Now, that is the basic stuff. We do have a relationship with characters as well. Okay, finally loaded. That took a long time, but as you can see here, as we upgrade it, we will get additional very, very minute stat increases. We can go ahead and we can gift to get that up, and as you can see, boom, we get up, we get the little stat increases. These are very minute. It's not the most important thing, but just, you know, it is another way that we can go ahead and get a little bit more stats on our characters. But that is pretty much all the main gist around characters and character progression. It's pretty straightforward. I think the most unique thing in this game is the talent trees, which you do have to be very careful with because those are permanent decisions. And then obviously creating your loadouts for your character's skills. And the final thing I wanted to jump into that is tied into your character's progression stats and stuff like that is going to be over here in the talent tree. So just next to the deployment button where we go ahead and we do the combat, this one over here is going to be your talents. Now, these are different talent trees for each different class, which are going to give you a bunch of different stats. There is also abilities that you unlock in here that you will be able to put into your preset preloads that you can bring into your combat that basically you as like the commander has to use with your own resource bar. We'll go more through that in the combat video when I make that, but these are, you also do unlock some of these through here. But essentially what you do is when you go into these, they are going to be a talent tree that you get different stats for. Now I'll go through when we go through the resource grind where you can get these currencies, but these are farmable currencies that you can use, that you can input to give yourself increased stats in all these different aspects and keep unlocking different benefits for the different classes. Once again, we do have the different 5-1s. It will take time to upgrade this, but this is another great source of power for your characters. Next up, we're going to jump into summons and talk about how summons work. This is a very complex summoning game, so bear with me while we go through this because there is quite a large amount of unique things in this summon system. So we have 3 banners. Now, I'm not going to talk about weapon banners. They will be in another video. They're a bit more niche. Most people aren't going to worry about them early on in the game. I want to get you guys to understand the hero summoning. So we have 3 different types of banners. We have debut banners, which is like the first time the character appears. We have returning banners, which is going to be double banners with 2 characters on them. These are for characters that are already been in the game and they're just getting essentially a quote-unquote rerun. And then we have the standard banner. Now you can have multiple of these rerun banners happening at the same time, as you can see with which we have with this one and this one. You can get that situation as well, but just know there are 3 core types of banners. Now with these 2 banners, because they are the same type, they're pity shares. But before we go into their pity, let's talk about a general pity that the game has across all hero banners. There is a 100 pity. So if you go 100 summons in this game without getting a character, or if you go 99 summons without getting a character, then your 100th summon will be a guaranteed character on whatever banner, based on the rates of whatever banner you're summoning on. So if I did 5 summons on this banner, 5 on this banner, and 5 on the standard banner, which you don't do, I would be at 15 cumulative summons towards my 100 pity. And I can demonstrate that here if I go into this one. And I show you guys my pities as we go down. It's a bit you know, hard to understand, obviously, but this 36 is what I want you to take note of. So this 36 means across all the banners, I could have been scattering between them, but between all the banners, I am now up to 64 pulls without a legendary / SSR hero. And that pity is going to be the same number in all of them. As you can see, this one is 36 as well. So that is 100 pity to guarantee yourself a legendary character, and it just matters which banner you do that final summon, that pity summon on, and then when you do that summon, it will obey the rates of that banner. So for instance, this banner, which is the debut character banner, you will have a 50% chance to get this hero. And that is the way it works. These ones give you a 75% chance to get one of the 2 heroes, so that 100 of pity will obey that. But now let's go through the individual banners and their own pity system. So there is that general 100 pity, call it a soft pity if you will, that accumulates summons between any hero banner that you do summons on. Now, the debut banner, all of these banners have a 2% drop rate on the legendary / SSR hero, if you will. Now, on this banner, when you hit that SSR, that legendary pool, you then have a 50% chance to get that rate up hero. Now, the second pity that these banners have is at 180. So at 180 pulls on this banner, that is when you are guaranteed to get this hero. Now, pulling any other hero on this banner before that 180 will not reset the pity. That 180 is only there, and it will only reset if you pull this specific rate up character early. So that is the way this banner works. These double character banners work a little bit differently. As you can see, we still have the 2% rate. However, when you land that 2% rate, you then have a 75% chance as opposed to 50% chance for it to be one of these two characters. So it's that like a 37.5% chance each to get one of these ones, but it's 75 total. Now, with this banner, once again, if you land one of these characters that you don't have, it will reset that pity. But if you get to the 180 pity, if you don't have either of them, then it will give you a random one of them guaranteed. If you have one of them but not the other, it will guarantee you to get the one that you don't have. But that only applies at the 180 pity. If you land that 75% chance to get one of the two, you can actually just keep getting dupes of the other one all the way up until the 180. So, you know, it's like anything, it's a risk, it's a gamble, but that is the way it works. So hopefully that explains the basics behind the summoning system. And once again, we do have the standard banner, which only contributes to that base 100 pity, but you're not really going to be summoning on it, so skip that one. Next, we're going to talk about account progression. Now, this is one of the key parts of the game, and that is your actual account level. As you can see here, you can see how much experience you need to level up your account. How are you going to get that experience? One is through your daily quests. So your daily quests over here, you want to keep on top of them because you don't want to miss a day of these, because as you can see at 50, contribution to it, you get 100 account experience, and over here at 80 you get 150 account experience. These are very basic missions, very easy to do them every day. It's a good chunk of experience for your account. Now, the other way you're going to get it is by spending stamina, because each stamina that you spend will give you one experience, so you want to burn that. Now, the reason we want to keep progressing our account level, and it is so important, is that our hero levels are determined. The max level that our heroes can go to is determined by our account level. You can see I just leveled my account up to level 37. My characters can now go to level 37. Also, your gear max level is determined by this, as I showed you guys earlier. I need to get to account level 40 before I can limit break my gear again. There is a bunch of things, including different game modes and stuff like that, that unlock based on your account level. So your account level is a very important thing. You want to be doing your daily quests every day because they give you a good bunch of extra experience. You can see here, this is 100 account experience, and this one over here is 150 account experience. So do your dailies, it's not that hard. The other way you're going to get the experience is through consuming stamina. Each stamina gives you one experience. So you are going to be wanting to burn your stamina as much as you can. Now, I'll go through modes in a sec, but that is it. The only other place that you can go ahead and get extra account experience is through this one. I forget what they call it in English, but it's one of those progressive missions. And some of these missions will actually give you account experience. As you can see here, this one giving us 300. So you really want to keep maxing out your account progression, your account experience, because it's going to be very important for leveling up your heroes, making your heroes more powerful, and then also unlocking different game modes in the game. So that is the basics around account progression and why it is so important. But the next thing I want to go into is the game modes themselves. So if we jump over here, you can see we've got 3 different game modes. Now, this one in the middle is your Fool's Journey. This is the main one you want to focus on early days. Now, some of these you will hit a hard stop where you can't progress through it anymore because you need to get your account level up. But this stuff is pretty basic. They do have little side tangents as well that you can go on to get some extra rewards. They have star rewards down the bottom next to my head that you can see. So as you get more stars, you can get some extra rewards. But this is going to be like your, beginning few days. This is going to be your main focus of progression. Now, when you do get bottlenecked on this one, you can jump over into this section here, and this is going to be your daily grind section. Well, not your daily grind, just your general resource grind section. Okay, and we're finally loaded. Apologies, the running this on emulator is super slow. But over here, we have a bunch of resource grind, except for these last 2, which I will touch on in a sec. Over here, we have, this is your resource grind for gear upgrading and limit breaking. This one here is for your talent trees that I mentioned earlier in the video, where you go into each class's talent tree and get extra stats. This is going to be a common one to go ahead and farm early to get those guaranteed stat bonuses. Really fantastic. This one is going to be your limit breaking materials for your different classes. This is going to be your hero experience. Then we have your hero shards. Now, this is where I mentioned you can farm the dupes of your characters. This is going to be where you're going to do it. You can do these once per day. Make sure you go ahead and do these. Like I said, or if you unlock a new difficulty, you can still do the new difficulty, but make sure you are doing this one at least once per day. And then we have our weapons and gear. Now, the thing on top of that is each day a different aspect, a different one of these will have a boosted drop that happens for once. So I like going in and doing these rate up ones. You can see there it's got the boost. I like doing the boosted one every day as one of my little farms because it's just higher efficiency to go ahead and do it. Now on some days they will all be boosted, so you can spread your stamina around there and do it around them. But in general, the one I find myself farming the most is this one over here to build up those talent trees to get my talents built up. Now it will change depending on where you're at, what you're progressing, what you're working on. But this one has been my general go-to for burning my stamina on. I will do a more in-depth stamina consumption guide once global's actually here, but that is like the general safe one to go for. Now, as we go over here, this is your tower mode, which I can't remember exactly what stage you unlock it, but it's a tower mode. You want to keep progressing through it. Now, once you clear floor 5 of the tower, you will unlock the second tower mode. Now, I'm not sure if that is going to be in the game directly at launch for global, but we will have to wait and see. So as you can see here, it's we've had the reset. You can see I've cleared floor 5, but we've had the reset, and so it's brought me back down. I've got to work my way back up. Now, these rewards here are one-time rewards, whereas the rewards that my head is covering at the moment, these are going to be your, I believe it's weekly or bi-weekly rewards. So those ones you can repeat, but these ones you only get one time. Now, as I mentioned, once you clear floor 5, you will unlock this other tower. And these two towers, you just basically want to climb them as high as you can and pay attention to their reset times. Now, this one is a lot harder. I haven't been able to clear any of this yet, so it is a much harder one. And this is where you're going to have to actually go ahead and bring 2 teams in. You can see that we have different buffs and debuffs that occur in it. So this is definitely like your end game mode that you are looking at, your end game PvE mode. That is the 2 towers. These 2 don't cost stamina, but they do give you limited attempts. And if you use the attempts, you can see here, you basically have 3 attempts. If you quit a stage 3 times or fail it, then you will run out of attempts. It takes 30 minutes to generate 1 attempt. It's not too crippling to you, so you can pretty much play it a lot, but just know you will have to wait 30 minutes if you use your 3 attempts to come back in and try again, or you can just go away for an hour and a half and you'll have full attempts back again. So that is the main places where you're going to be burning your stamina once you get through the initial part of the game of progressing through your Fool's Journey, but always keep coming back to the Fool's Journey as you reach the new levels to keep progressing through that journey, because once again you will hit limit breaks where you can't progress due to your account level. Now this one over here, I'm not going to go too in depth into. This is your single player traditional JRPG kind of story mode. There is rewards in it, so do this one, but my recommendation is do this one when you're out of stamina. Do all your stamina consuming progressive towers and stuff like that, then you can come over here, and this is a great one that you can go ahead and you can progress through when you have nothing left to do with stamina, because this one does not cost stamina. It does cost keys to enter. We'll have to see what story they give us at global, but the current story going on in the Taiwanese version is super long. Now in this one, you're going to get different characters to use in it depending on what the story has, and it does feel like a much more of that traditional JRPG feel. Now this one is going to be heavily story focused, but I have completely ignored it essentially because I can't read the story, so you know, it doesn't really mean too much for me. But it is going to be same as the rest of the game in the combat sense, where you've got different objectives through combat and stuff like that. These ones are often more like this battle, where it's like, okay, you've got to avoid being detected and stuff like that. And these are the way I would describe the combat in these modes so far that I've experienced is much more like strategic based as opposed to account power based, if that makes sense. So like I said, you got to not get spotted. If you get spotted, you've got to reset your turn, stuff like that. There's a lot of those type of fights. So this one's a bit more nuanced, a bit more story based, but once again, unfortunately, because it is the Taiwanese version, I haven't really been focusing in on it too much. Now, aside from that, for game modes, we do have the PvP game mode, the arena, if you will. We will have real-time arena coming in global, but at the start, we'll have basic arena. For this one, you can play it like a PvE mode. Just attack people that are low level, set yourself a weak defense, and you can basically put it on auto and beat anyone that is 10, 20 levels below you. If you want to just go through, and the reason you want to do that is because we do have progression rewards for just completing basic missions, like playing in battles, winning a few battles and stuff like that, and that will get you some really strong resources along the way to help progress your account. So if you're not into PvP, still jump in here and play it like a general PvE mode, where you just fight weak enemies, put it on auto and GG's, so that you can get the rewards, because that will help you in your general PvE progression as well. And aside from that, we do have guilds as well, which you can join a guild basically straight away. And we do have these progression missions, which are going to give you some guild coins to spend at the shop. But they have announced that they will have more guild features coming in the future. So keep that in mind. So definitely get yourself in a guild if you can. And that pretty much covers the general game modes that we have in the game. And the final thing that I want to cover in this video is going to be the events. Now, we got 3 different forms of events tabs that you will go into. The first one here is the battle pass. So there's going to be weekly and like lifetime missions for these ones. These ones are going to be your weeklies. I believe these are the longer term missions. You go ahead, you claim these, you progress through. It's pretty easy to complete this. Now, I'm free to play, so I'm not getting the spender rewards, but the big rewards end at level 50, and then it just goes into very basic rewards. Pretty easy to complete. Just come back here, collect them, get your freebies. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, the other one we have, this is going to be an ongoing event, which will take you a while to do, especially a global with progressive missions. Make sure you keep coming back here, looking at this, looking at what missions you can achieve and progressing through them. Because as you progress through these missions, you will unlock new missions with new rewards. You can see we can get different characters, legendary characters from here. You can get a bunch of summon currency and everything like that. So these progressive missions, you definitely want to keep coming back, checking this and progressing it as best you can. Now, the final events tab we have is going to be over at the top here, and that's going to be this events tab. Now, this is going to house all of your other events in the game that you can go ahead and participate in, and you can scroll through them. Now, some of them will be very simple events, like join them on socials and stuff like that, if I can find it. Stuff like that. You can join them on socials and get some rewards and stuff like that. But this will be the tab that is going to hold all of your events. Now, on the PC client, it may change in position and stuff like that, but there is that events tab where you're going to be able to go through and check what else is going on in the game. If there's a red dot there, go check it. You're probably going to get some freebies and stuff like that. So that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to go through in this beginner's guide. If you do have any other questions, anything I didn't elaborate on, I feel like this video is getting long as hell. I don't know. I'll have to put it together to find out, but let me know and I will elaborate on as much as I can. I do have a bunch of much more in-depth guides that I want to go through. Like I said, I will have combat, reroll, tier list, everything. We will get it all out, but let me know any other videos you guys would like to see. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.